Uh, this is the second class regarding the mass spectrometry. So we in the last class, what we have discussed, if I just quickly go through, uh, we have tried to define or try to explain what is mass spectrometry and what information you can extract from this spectrometric tool, and we try to understand what are the basic principles uh, by which the mass spectrometric instrument works. What are the different segments of the instruments, and what are the parts we see in the uh, I mean the different functions. Okay, we have tried to explain, and we try to look at the one of the most important part, that was the ionization technique, and we are discussing, we're trying to elaborate that one. So in ionization method, we have mentioned that uh, you have different techniques, like you have electron ionization technique, where you find like high energy electron beam is utilized to generate the ions from the targeted molecule. And and what we have seen further is that uh, during the generation of ions, you have a probabilities of the generation of cation, you have a probability of generation of anions, and the instrument is designed in such a way that it will allow only one type of ion to move forward. Like either it will allow the cation to move forward, or it will allow the anion to move forward. Okay, and we started how the cations are directed towards the analyzing chamber, right? Uh, in a reverse way, it can be done. The negative anion or negative ions can also be analyzed. At that situation, you have to just reverse the potential. Okay, so you have seen in the spectrophotometer, you have the repeller plate, you have the accelerating plate. So those plates, you have just the development of the opposite pole, right? You have your repeller plate, you are trying to repel the cation, so we are generating the positive end there. So the positive charge will be repelled. If you want to analyze the anion, then you have to reverse the pole. So you have to, repeller plate will be acting as the negatively charged potential. Okay. What we have seen further is that this electron ionization technique, since it needs high energy beam, like 50 to 70 electron volt of potential, that helps the molecule to have the accelerated kinetic energy, and it finally transferred to the vibrational frequency. I mean, it enhances the vibrational frequency, and what happens, the molecule gets apart, means molecule breakdown. So in electronization technique, what we find is it's very difficult to identify the molecular ion. Most of the cases, we don't find the molecular ion. The molecule always gets fragmented. Okay. Now, for the beta analysis, people come up with the modification or the modified version, and that is the softer technique, which is the chemical ionization. And that we have discussed in chemical ionization. Instead of directly hitting the uh, targeted molecules with the electron beam, what we see is that here the supporting gas is in. Okay? So that gas you have to insert first, and it will collide with the electron beam, and it will generate the ions, and then that uh, ions will be reacting with your targeting molecule. So your molecule will be inserted later on. Okay, and then these ionized gases will be reacting with your molecule, and generally we see the proton transfer reaction. Okay, sometimes you can see negative ion transfer also, but generally in the regular practice we do proton transfer. Some background noise is coming. Somebody seems to have kept your microphone on. Can you please shut down your mic, switch off your microphone? Yeah, thank you. So what we have seen is that I think Washim, you have to switch off your microphone. Yeah. So what we have seen that in chemical ionization technique, there is no such high energy transfer. So most of the cases we find the molecular ion peak. But here the situation will be based on what type of gases, helping gas you are using. Okay, and this transfer of I mean the interactions between the molecule and the gases will be based on the proton affinity that you have seen. Higher the proton affinity differences between your molecule of targeted molecules and the helping gases, you have more chances of energy transfer. And if you have more energy transfer is there, what will happen? The fragmentation will be more. So you have to be very careful what type of molecule you are analyzing and what type of gases accordingly have to choose. Okay. Now today what we'll see is we'll try to understand what is the differences we'll find for a particular molecule when we'll be treating with electron ionization technique and when we're treating with the chemical ionization method. Okay. So that two, I mean, we'll be discussing that part. Same molecule will be trying to look at their mass spectrum in different methods. And then we'll try to see the another technique, which is desorption ionization technique. So, and we'll have the last one, the electro spray ionization technique. So that things we'll be looking at. And then if time permits, we'll be moving to mass analysis. So analyzing chamber, what is being done there. Okay. So that section we'll be trying to address. Now there, I mean, you have various methods. So one of the important method, that is the magnetic sector mass analyzer. So that type of analyzer, what it does. So we'll try to understand that part. Okay. And how the spectra, okay, will be projected based on this analyzer. So that will be discussing. What we see in the comparative study, I'll be just showing here. We will be taking one representative molecule, which is butyl methacrylate. Okay, so butyl methacrylate. Now let us look at its EIMS, electron ionization mass spectrum. So this is the EIMS. Okay, now the molecule is here. You can find here. This is the molecule, and its molecular weight is, or you can tell the exact mass is 142. I'm just taking the. I'm not considering the after decimal. Okay, so just taking the regular mass. Okay, I'm not considering the 0.1. Okay, so 142 I have considered. This is molecular weight. Now, if you look at the EIMS, do you find the peak of 142 here in the EIMS? Is it visible? Can you see the 142 peak here in the mass spectrum?
Yes, sir.
So if you look at, you will find a very tiny peak around here. Okay, 142 peak. Maybe this one is the 142 peak, which is very tiny, almost negligible, right? Almost negligible. But what you see in turns, you see the peak 87, okay, a bit visible. I mean, quite height you have. You have 69 is the 100% peak, right? Yeah, the maximum height of the peak is 69. And you have 56 here, okay? So these are the prominent peak we can find. So you have 56, 69, 87, okay? So these are the prominent peak, but we don't, I mean, recognize like that the 142 peak. Means the compound mostly the 142 related ion, molecular ion, reaching to the detector, I mean, very negligible amount. Okay, and in the last class we have seen the detector will be projected. It will be projecting what, the count of ions. Okay, individual ions, how many number it has reached to the detector. Now 142 peak, that one is almost negligible. So means that particular molecular ion has underwent the fragmentation. Okay, and it has generated different fragments. Like 56 is one fragment, 69 is another, and 87 is another fragment. Okay, so let us look at what actually is happening. So you have, this is the molecule, you are bombarding with electron beam. So what it will do, it will eject one of the electron from this molecule, and it will generate a dot plus. Okay, so this is the thing, it is generating a dot plus. Now this one is it can undergo, I mean, it will fragment it. Okay, because you have stable cation can be generated from here. Okay, so let us look at, it can be clipped from here. So let me take the pen, then it will be I don't know why the pen is not working today. It should work anyway. So what we see here is that it can be clipped from here. Okay, if it is clipped from here, you have a generated a cation at the carbonyl-carbon center, and that cation is stabilized because you have the oxygen lone pair, so that lone pair can stabilize the carbocation. Okay, so this is the 69, which is uh, the carbocation. Okay, it's a stabilized carbocation. Now you can look at the molecule can be fragmented in a different way. It can be fragmented from here. Okay, and if it is fragmented from here, what you will see, if you look at uh, your dot plus, you can imagine the dot plus is coming. I mean, the electron is ejected from the lone pair of this oxygen. It can happen. Okay, so if it is ejecting one electron, you have a dot plus here. So dot plus on oxygen. Okay, now that dot plus, uh, the oxygen can take one hydrogen atom from the nearby carbon. Okay, so that's why it is becoming radical at this position. Now oxygen is plus charge, so that bond can clip, and you can have a dot plus on this carbon, and this particular is having 56. Okay, so that we can see. So this one is less stabilized. Okay, with respect to this one. So that's why you see the 56 is smaller in size. Okay, 69 here is the maximum. You can have another cation, like you can have 86, similar way you can have 87. Okay, so if you generate a cation here and this carboxylic acid with this cation, that is that's possible. So you have this one, but you think this cation is having stability only by hyperconjugation. Okay, the 2-methyl group, there is no lone pair is stabilizing this carbocation. Okay, so what we find here is that these are the different cations are possible to generate during the, I mean, this technique. So most of the cases we see this molecule will be completely fragmented. Now let us look at what is happening if you treat with the same molecule EIMS. Okay, in EIMS, CIMS, chemical ionization mass spectrum of this molecule. In this case, suppose you are using methane. So who can tell what you are expecting here? If you use methane and this molecule, what will be the condition of their um, proton affinity? Okay, so CIMS is based on proton affinity, as I told. So can you imagine, like methane and this molecule, whether they will have close value of its proton affinity, their proton affinity, or there will be much, I mean, there will be much difference. What do you think? Can anybody tell regarding the proton affinity? This is your molecule, okay, butyl methacrylate and methane. So, do you think they are having comparable proton affinity? Can anybody tell whether they have comparable proton affinity or they are far different?
Are different. They are.
Yes. So they will be far different because methane, uh, if you think like methane is taking one proton, proton affinity means it is binding with proton. Okay, so methane binding with proton is very, very difficult, right? So you don't have anything to donate, right? You don't have lone pair or pi bond to make the, electron donation to the proton. Okay, so it's very difficult. So that's why methane is having proton affinity very poor, whereas this molecule is having a high proton affinity because we have oxygen with lone pair. Okay, so it can easily donate the lone pair of electron to the proton. That means it has strong affinity towards the proton. So that's why you have different, their proton differences of proton affinity is more. So what you will see during the process, the methane, when it will try to protonate this molecule, it will also transfer the energy, okay, during collision. And that situation, what will happen, the molecule will get more energy, and that will be again, uh, fragmented. The molecule will try to go under fragmentation. Okay. So here you see, if you look at the mass spectrum, we find like 143 peak is smaller. Okay, 143 peak is smaller, and here in this case 86, 87, that is becoming the bigger one, because in this case what you will see, the fragmentation takes place in this route. So this is breaking, and this is opening. Okay, so carboxylic acid related cation will be more in concentration. Okay, because that is the route of breaking. This is the primary route in this case, and that's why you have 87 and 86. That too will see here. Okay, as the major peak. Now let us look at what will be the situation if you change the gas. So when you are changing the gas to isobutane, that time we see 143 peak is much bigger. Okay, so 143 means you are adding one proton with this molecule. So 142 plus one proton. So that is 143. So this is the situation. Okay, in this case, the isobutane and the molecule what we are discussing here, their proton affinity are relatively comparable. If you look at the situation, isobutane can easily donate the proton. Okay, you can, if you look at in the last class we have seen, it is the cation which is the tertiary butyl cation, right? That is responsible for donation of the proton. So it will generate the isobutene, and one proton will be donated. In the last class that I have discussed. So they have comparable proton donation, the proton affinity, and that's why the fragmentation is limited here, and you are observing the molecular ion peak. The molecular ion peak in the sense M plus H peak. Okay, M plus H peak you are finding, and what we have seen from these particular observations, I mean, this is the best way to observe, like do the mass spectrum study for certain molecule. Okay, so I'm not telling like this is will be always the best one. It depends on compound to compound. So in this case, this is the best option. Now let us go to the desorption ionization technique. So in desorption ionization technique, you have, what we'll see is both the EI and CI method, electron ionization technique and chemical ionization technique. That two methods require relatively volatile compound, okay, so low molecular weight, that I have told in the last class. Now here in desorption ionization technique, it is recently developed. So this technique allows the analysis of large non-volatile molecules. Okay, so this is the beauty of this technique. You can do the bigger molecule analysis here. Like you have protein, you have different biological compound, like big compounds. You can easily polymer, like that type of things you can analyze here. I mean, not bigger polymer. You can have the oligomer. Okay, so like 3-4 units are being connected. That type of molecule, like you have molecule around 2,000 to even 20,000 uh, molecular weight. You can easily do analysis here. Whereas in EICI method, 350 molecular weight is the maximum you can go for. Okay, beyond that, it will be very difficult to do the analysis. Now, this desorption ionization technique, you have three particular uh, methods. One is the SIMS, which we call it as the secondary ion mass spectrometry. Second is you have the FAB, fast atom bombardment. Third, you have the MALDI, matrix assisted laser desorption ionization technique. Okay, so these three uh, techniques are well known in this desorption method. Now, in desorption ionization, the sample to be analyzed is particularly, you know the term desorption, so it has to be dissolved or dispersed. Okay, in the matrix, matrix means you have a certain molecule, certain types of molecule, we call it as the matrix. Okay, so you have that matrix, you have to take it, your sample of interest, you have to dissolve in certain solvent, and you have to mix with the matrix. Okay, so definitely matrix will have high concentration with respect to your sample molecule. Okay, now that mixed system you have to place in a path of high energy beam. Okay, high energy means very high energy, 1 to 10 kilo electron volt beam. Now, since you are dealing with the solid now, okay, your matrix is almost solid. Okay, so you are dealing directly with the solid type of molecule, okay, solid or semi-solid, you can think. It's not the gaseous. So that's why your energy has to be much more higher. Now, the beam of three different types of uh, beam. Okay, let us look at what are those. One type of beam is the ion. That ions are argon or cesium. Okay, uh, cations are used. You can imagine the argon cation. Argon is inert gas. Generating cation is not so easy. So it is generated under certain condition. So those are means these cations are very reactive actually. So this one we call it as the SIMS, secondary ion mass spectrometry. So here the argon plus cesium plus is utilized. Second is the first atom bombardment, where we are using the neutral atoms like argon, xenon, the inert gases we are using. And the third one, we are using the laser, and mostly used laser is the nitrogen laser that emits the wavelength of 337 nanometer. Okay, so that is used in the MALDI, so matrix assisted laser desorption ionization technique. So these are the three different techniques utilized. I mean the ions, neutral atoms, and the laser of nitrogen of 337 nanometer. Okay. Now what is happening here? The collision of these ions, atoms, or the photons with the sample. Okay, this ionizes some of the sample molecules and ejects them from the surface of the matrix. So matrix surface is there. So from there, the molecule is being ejected because it is bombarded with the ions or the atoms or the laser. So you have a huge bombardment. So it will give the certain kinetic energy. So from the surface, it will be depleted. So it will be just coming out. to be ejected from the surface. So the ejected ions are then accelerated towards the mass analyzer. So you have again the similar, I mean, system. When the ions will be generated, that ion will be directed to the mass analyzer. Based on that repeller plate, you will have the accelerating plate and all. So that will be helping for the movement to the analyzer. Now, first atom bombardment uses neutral atoms to ionize the sample. Both positive ion and negative ion detections are possible. As I told, like you have the positive ion generation, you have the negative ion generation. When the collision will take place, you have certain changes. Now, molecular ions in SIMS and FAB are typically M plus H or M minus H. Means you have proton transfer. Okay, from the matrix to the molecule of interest, you have the proton transfer process takes place. Okay. Uh, Sometimes if you have in the surroundings the alkali metal ion, that can be connected. So you can have molecular ion, I mean M plus Na or M plus K, that can be there. Okay. So that we may find. Matrix should be non-volatile. Okay, matrix should be non-volatile, relatively inert. It has to be inert, otherwise that will create the noise peak in the spectrum, and a reasonable electrolyte to allow ion formation. Means you have to have proper electrolytic condition so that ion formation is easier. If the matrix compound is more acidic than the analyte, what will happen? Matrix will give up the proton. Then the peak what you will find for the mass of the molecule of interest will be M plus H. Okay, that peak you will be observing. So that is there. But if it is the reverse, your molecule is more acidic than the matrix, then molecule will be giving up one proton. Okay, and you will have a negative charge generation. So M minus H, that peak will be observing. Okay, so that is the thing. So that means here one part is important, that is the pK or like acidic nature of the matrix as well as the sample. Now, common matrix for SIMS and FAB method. Uh, those matrix are generally the glycerol, thioglycerol, 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol, di and trithioethanolamine. You have the mixtures of dithiotritol, DTT, and dithioerythritol. Okay, so these are the matrix used in SIMS and FAB method. The matrix used in MALDI, it has to be able to absorb the emitted laser wavelength. Okay, so this photon has to be like the matrix has to be, you know, it has to be able to absorb this wavelength of light. So in this case, what we find is uh, the substituted nicotine, picolinic acid, or cinnamic acid derivatives are utilized. Okay. Now let us just give quickly the structure. We have glycerol. Okay. The thioglycerol. You have dithiotritol, tritol, and this erythritol. You have diethanolamine. You have triethanolamine. You have 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol. So these are utilized in the SIM and FAB method. Okay, single ion, secondary ion mass spectrometry, and first atom bombardment. So these are utilized. And in MALDI, what we see is the nicotinic acid. Okay, that is utilized. You have picolinic acid. You have 3-hydroxypicolinic acid. You have 2,5-dihydroxybenzoic acid. You have cyano 4-hydroxycinnamic acid. Okay, you have synapinic acid. So those are utilized in MALDI. So it's important for you to know the structure, because these are important for the short questions. Okay, so maybe it is being asked like if in the exam the question can be set up accordingly. So some structure will be given, maybe it will be asked like which will be multi matrix, which will be sim matrix. Okay, so that type of question will be there. So you have to know this one. Now let us look at how the things happen. So here you look at in the desorptionization technique. So this white color, ball shape, it is the matrix molecule, and this black color you have the sample molecule. Okay, so you can see here the sample molecule is dispersed on the matrix. Okay, now what is happening? Uh, the incident beam of maybe the ion or the atom or the photon, right, which is utilized in this case. In this case, you see the energy here is 1 to 10 kiloelectron volt. So that is striking. Now, obviously, your molecule is very less. So the most probable option is the strike will happen on the matrix. Okay, and the matrix molecule will get the translational energy, and that will be transferred to the molecules, and from the surface, both the matrix molecule as well as the your targeted molecules, sample molecule will be ejected. Okay, and here we see your molecule is surrounded by multiple small molecule of the matrix, and then what happens is you have the proton transfer. So your sample molecule is getting one proton from the matrix. Okay, and ultimately sample will be getting positive charge because we have H plus is connected, and then this H plus will be directed, I mean this sample with H plus will be directed towards the analyzer. Okay, by the repeller plate and the accelerating plate properly placed in the chamber. So it's a very just I mean straightforward presentation. Now you have another technique which we know as the EIMS, ESIMS, electrospray ionization technique. In this situation, what happens is this is the more useful technique. I mean the most utilized technique nowadays. Okay, and it can be utilized for all type of molecule. Okay, so huge mass can be utilized, volatile, non-volatile, everything can be utilized here, no issue. So this technique, a solution of the sample is made, okay, and that solution of sample molecules is sprayed over the end of a fine capillary. So you have a capillary, and the sample is placed with the spread out the end of the fine capillary. Okay, so capillary at the end you have to put that one, spray that one into a heated chamber that is at nearly atmospheric pressure. So the whole thing will be in a heated chamber. So now the capillary through which the sample solution passes has a high voltage potential across the surface. Okay, so you have external potential is utilized. So you have so that means if you are having some potential differences, so the molecule can have, it can undergo oxidation or reduction reaction. So you can have an electron transfer process from the molecule. Okay, so the surface, across the surface, it is generated the potential. So charge. So what happens is, and the small charge droplets are expelled into the ionization chamber. So from the capillary tube mouth, so the droplet is falling, and that droplet is directed to the ionization chamber. Okay, so let me show you actually how it happens. You will understand more easily that when I show the diagram. The charged droplets are subjected to a counter flow of drying gas, mostly the nitrogen. Okay, or inert gases are used to dry the droplet. So ultimately, you are using the sample solution. Okay, and the solution you are allowing to pass through a capillary, and that capillary has the potential gradient. So you have the surface, around the surface you have the potential differences. So that will allow the molecule to grow the charge. Okay, and now the molecule, when coming out from the mouth of the capillary, it will come as the droplet. Okay, now the droplet of charged molecule, okay, that is coming out. Now what is done here extra is you have the external source of flow of gas, inert gas, so that the solvent whatever you have used, it will try to evaporate. So when it will happen, the droplet is now, your solvent is losing, the droplet is losing the solvent, right? When you put the external blow of gases. Now what will happen? So if the solvent molecule is evaporated, so your charge density is going to increase in this droplet, okay? And at certain point, what will happen? The repulsive force between the charges will be exceeding the surface tension of the droplet. Okay, so you have the droplet and you have inside the charged molecule, your droplet size is now becoming smaller because the solvent is evaporated. And at certain point, what will happen? That the charged molecules, they will have the repulsion inside, and that will be so much that the surface tension of this droplet will fall short. Okay, so your repulsive force will be exceeding the surface tension, and that will help to break down the droplet. So your droplet is becoming I mean it's breaking apart into different small droplets. Okay, and this way you have further breakage. I mean the small droplets will be further, I know it will undergo breaking and it will becoming more smaller size, and at the end you will have only the charged particle. I mean all the charged molecule will be remaining. Okay, and that charged molecule will be directed to the analyzer. So this is the way people do this one, electrospray ionization technique. And this is what I want to tell, like droplets break apart into smaller droplets, and this process continues until the solvent, I mean all solvents get evaporated. So you have 3 samples ions are left in the gas phase. Okay, so that is the way people do. Now what we see is here, if you look at, this is the capillary tube, you have the ions here generated. Okay, why it is generating the ions? Because you are applying the external potential, okay, around the surface of this capillary tube. Okay, so you have the connections, electrical connections, you are applying the potential voltage. Okay, so you have the electron transfer process will take place when the molecule will come in contact to the surface. That time you have the electron transfer process and you have the ions generation. Now if the anions are generated, if you have the opposite charge generation, that anion can be taken care and the cation can be ejected, okay, based on what type of potential you are using. So the cations are coming as the droplets because this is in the solution phase. Okay, so from the tip it is coming as the droplets. So you have different droplets here. Now what you are doing, you are doing evaporation. So you are applying the gas. Okay, when the droplet is falling, you are applying the gas here inside. So the bigger droplets is now becoming smaller droplet size, and you have charge density is increasing. And what will happen at certain point, you have so much charge inside, so it will overcome the surface tension and it will break apart into 2, like you have the multiple droplets. So here I have shown the 2 droplets. The 2 droplets, again further the same process will be continuing, and this will be becoming smaller droplets further, and finally it will be free ions, and that ion will be directed to the analyzer. So that is the process we look into the electroionization, electrospray ionization technique. Okay, remember this technique can be utilized all type of molecules, because whether it is bigger or smaller, you can make it into the solution, and if you are making in solution, you can do the process. Okay, so this is not a big problem. Now the important part here is we have come across the different techniques of ionization. Okay, So our now next job is to direct the ion to the analyzer. Okay, and in this process, what we'll have in the mass analysis, you have actually different techniques like what we have seen for ion generation, ionization techniques. We have similar different techniques for mass analysis. One of the most important and mostly utilized technique is the magnetic sector mass analyzer. You have double beam focusing, I mean double focusing mass analyzer that is there, quadruple mass analyzer, and the last one is time of flight, TOF mass analyzer. So these four are well known. So today we'll see the mass, I mean the magnetic sector mass analyzer. Okay, how it works. Uh, in the magnetic sector mass analyzer, if you recall, what we are having, your ion is generated, okay, and that ion is having some acceleration because it is being bombarded with either electron beam or it is interacting with the uh, proton transfer process. During that, the energy is being transferred, so it is getting some acceleration. Okay, so these things are happening. Okay, so you have the kinetic energy, half mv square, where you have the mass of the ion, and v is the m is the mass of the ion, v is the velocity. Okay. Uh, Now, if you can remember what you have the acceleration generated due to the attractive force. You have the uh, repelling plate, you have the accelerating plate, right? So that is helping the ions to drag, okay, moving, helping the ion to move forward. So you have the attractive forces there in the ionization chamber to direct the ions to the analyzer. Now that attractive forces is responsible for the acceleration. So what we can think here is that if the Z is the ion charge and V is uh, the potential differences, okay, the potential gradient applied in the accelerating plate, so that uh, will be like potential differences. You have Z into V, that is the work done, means that is the force. So we can compare like half mv square is equal to Z capital V. Okay, so that will be there for the case of the ions we can consider. Now in the presence of magnetic field, now this is one part, you are applying the potential. And in another case, what you are doing, you are applying the magnetic field. So both you are applying. You are using potential differences, you are using the magnetic field. So in mass spectrum, both are utilized. Okay. Now, when you are applying the magnetic field, a charged species, when it is moving under the magnetic field, it will have the curved path. Okay, it will have some radial path. Okay, it will not move to a straight line, definitely. Okay, and you know that this Lorentz equation, based on that it will move. Okay, so if the r is the curvature, I mean the radius of the curvature of this path of the moving charged particle or charged ion molecule, what we see is that at that situation, your R can be represented as R is equal to mb by zb, where b is the applied magnetic field, the strength of the magnetic field, R is the radius of the curvature. Okay, mb is m is the mass and v is the velocity. Okay, so that can be there. Now what you can do is you can compare these two equations and come up with m by z. Okay, so if these two equations are combined, so what you can extract is m by z, and that m by z is equal to b square r square by 2v. So that you can find out. You can do by your own, just do that one, and you will be getting this expression. M by z is equal to b square I square by 2v. Now, what you find here, B, you are applying the strain, so you know the strain. V, you are applying the potential, so you know the potential. So these are the constant part. These are in your hand. Okay, so you know the value. What you don't know is the R. So how much the radius will be. Okay, so that is depending upon M by Z. So higher the mass by Z ratio, higher will be the curvature. So that means molecule with higher mass with charge ratio, that will have bigger radius. Okay, that means a small molecule, suppose if I take a methyl and ethyl, okay, so which one will have the higher radius of movement? It is the ethyl, because methyl plus and ethyl plus, if you think, methyl plus will have a higher M by Z, ethyl plus will have higher M by Z ratio, so it will have higher R value. Okay, and in the mass spectrum, if you look at, you will understand, uh, greater the value of M by Z, larger the radius of the curved path. The analyzer tube of the instrument is constructed to have a fixed radius of curvature. Now, what is done here in the analyzer, it has been set up in such a way that it has a particular radius, okay, of curvature. Now, the molecule which is are having very high radius of curvature, it will not reach to the detector, because I'll show the picture here, you will understand. The particle with correct M by Z ratio can can move through this curved analyzer tube and reach to the detector. Okay, particles with very different M by Z ratios, that are either too large or too small, will strike to the wall of the analyzer tube and will not reach to the detector. Okay, so if you look at, this is the situation, you are having the detector here. Okay, this is the detector. What you are doing, you are allowing this path. Okay, so your ion is generated here, it is accelerated, it is moving to this direction, magnetic beam is applied here, magnetic uh, field is applied here, so you have a curved path now. So some ion can have bigger curved path, some ion can have very small r, so it will just here, some ions will have proper r, so it can move this direction. Now you have, these are the uh, I mean two extreme cases. One is very big R, another is very small r. Others in between, so they can pass through this channel and can reach to the detector. Okay. Now, if you can imagine what will happen, the higher M by Z ratio will definitely have a higher, distance it will be falling in the detector. Okay. And that's why what we see in the mass spectrum, always the higher will be at far away and smaller will be closer here. So it is not like haphazard. Some will come like 87 is here, 69 is here. You will not never see like 69 is coming after 87, okay, or 56 is coming after 87. You will not find like that. It will have always in mass spectrum. You will see a gradual increase. Okay, the peak will be accordingly uh, detected according to its M by Z. Okay, so that is governed by this particular technique, where the magnetic field is utilized and you have a proper channel. Okay, through this curved channel, only the proper ions will be directed. Okay, the ions will have very big molecular, the very big value, M by Z value will not come. Now in mass spectrum, one thing you remember, uh, what can happen is, when one radical or cation is formed, they can combine also to have the bigger ion. Okay, and that bigger ion generally will not observe. Suppose you have a molecular ion peak at 100, you may have generation of above 100 peak. Okay, you may have generation of above 100 peak, but that are generally excluded in the detector due to this technique. Okay, so bigger or very small will not be detected. The considerable amount of m by z value will be detected. Okay. So this is up to this much today. We'll be continuing tomorrow. We'll look at some other techniques, and then we'll see the different fragmentation pattern. What are the roots of fragmentation that we'll be discussing in the following classes. Okay. So I'm stopping here. I think you have another class you go through. Then if you have any question, you can ask in between. Okay, I'm not taking question today, so you have another class just there. So thank you all for attending today's class. I'm stopping here.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you, sir.